Hey guys, listen, I want to talk today about why I truly hate Trump supporters. Now, I've done live streams about this, but I want to start doing some more uploads. So I'm gonna do the first one about this topic because I think it'll explain why uh, I think we have the problems we have today. Okay, and it's not necessarily Trump that's the problem; it's the supporters that are the problem. Now that's obvious, right? Because without the supporters, there would be no Trump. Okay, but if you already take into account the fact that he's already president, right? All right. Uh, their continued support for him, even as he continues to fuck the country up on a daily basis, and there's no pushback from his base. There's no pushback. His approval rating amongst Republicans is 87%. Okay. Now, let me explain something to you about that, the way I see these things, right? Every time I do a live stream, these guys will tell me about, why don't you look at the Democrats' approval rating? Look at how bad they're doing. And I say, well, what you don't understand is that's because we're not a cult. Like they think it's just all the Democrats, approve of, all the Democratic voters approve of Democrat politicians' job performances, and everybody else in the country disapproves. No, no. A large reason why the Democrats' approval rating is so low is because us Democrat voters don't approve of their job performance. And we're willing to say that. We're not a cult. So if the Democrats are doing badly, we say so. Okay. And that drives poll numbers down because the people who are supposed to be their main supporters will call them out when they're wrong. The reason Trump has an 87% approval rating amongst Republicans is the exact opposite reason. See, they will not call Trump out for being wrong. They won't. I do live streams every day, and I ask people specific questions about things Trump has done, and then I say, "Can you tell me if that's wrong? What he did? Can you say that it was wrong him doing that when it's quite obviously wrong? Like for example, he just pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was convicted of trafficking 400 tons of cocaine into our country. Now, when he was asked why he did this, he said, "Some people in Honduras told me I should." you know, that's what he said. So there's no good reason behind it. It's simple quid pro quo that he's going to get something in exchange for this. Maybe he already got paid because he does in fact sell pardons, but that's obviously wrong. Nobody can deny that. And these MAGA people will constantly tell you about how we should keep blowing up these boats in Venezuela because they might have drugs on them, but they're not worried about this huge drug trafficker that brought 400 tons of cocaine into our country. They don't care about him being pardoned. If he does it all over again, they couldn't give a shit as long as Donald Trump approves of it. Okay, so they could not admit that that was wrong. I asked them time and time again, is it wrong that he pardoned this guy? Is it wrong or is it right? Was it a good thing to do or a bad thing to do? They won't even answer. And if they do answer, they'll say it was a good thing. When I asked them why it was a good thing, crickets. They got nothing to say. Okay. So the problem is you got one side that will disapprove of their party's performance and the other side that will not, under any circumstances, disapprove of theirs. Okay. For instance, Donald Trump's numbers are horrible. His job performance is abysmal. The inflation is up from this point last year. The inflation rate, I'm sorry. Uh, Grocery prices are up. Gas prices are going back up. Utilities are up. Jobs numbers are horrendous. He lost 32,000 jobs in November, and that's the fourth time he's lost jobs in 6 months. Okay. Uh, Farmers are going bankrupt. There was 259, I think, more farmer bankruptcies uh, since Trump has taken office than there was all year 2024. Okay. There's so many things I can mention, that are just terrible about his presidency. He's not helping anybody. He's giving tax cuts to the richest people and raising taxes on the poorest. The tariffs are raising the prices of everything, another cause of inflation. And everybody's paying more for everything, whether they realize it or not. But I'll never forget when Donald Trump said, when he was running in 2016, I could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters. Now, these people never really caught on to what he was saying, these MAGA people, because they're not the brightest, let's be honest. So to them, it meant, if anything, that they were loyal. No, 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 no. He was calling them stupid. He was saying that they worship me so much that even if I killed somebody in broad daylight, they still wouldn't change their mind about voting for me. So in other words, he's saying they're stupid and they have no morals whatsoever. No matter what he does, they will not turn on him. And he's right. We didn't know it then, just how loyal they were, if you want to call it loyal, just how, diehard they are in their support of him. Okay, I don't know if you call it loyal. I think they're cult members. Honestly, I think Trump is a cult leader. So I think it's just more of an obsession and worship than it is loyalty. We didn't really know it until he became president, and we started seeing that nothing he did was bad enough in their eyes that they disapproved of it. But he knew it. He knew it early on. He knew right away, because he's seeing that the more controversial stuff comes out about him, the grab him by the pussy tape, all that stuff, the more his numbers went up, not down, which is unbelievable, right? Any other president or presidential candidate in American history has something like that come out, audio like that dug up on them, their run is over. It's over. Remember when Mitt Romney got in all kinds of trouble just for saying, I think he said he has binders full of women, meaning women that are applying for jobs or something like that with him. That was a huge deal. Remember when he made the 47% comment? 47% of this country pays no tax. That was a big deal. But Donald Trump saying that he literally grabs women by the vagina against their will. Nothing. If anything, it helped them. It didn't hurt them. Okay? So they're the problem. They're the problem, and they always will be, because without them, he fails. Okay? He's already failing. They fail to acknowledge it. And until they start to acknowledge it, which they most likely never will, he will have no reason to change what he's doing, and the Republicans in the House and the Senate will have no reason to get tough with him, so that he has no choice. Start fighting against them, because believe me, once enough Republican politicians see their numbers, their approval ratings and shit going in the toilet, they'll start fighting back against them. Okay, and that's what we need, because they're the only check on the president, really, and they do nothing. So it's got to really start to hurt them. And hurt him too. He's got to see that, oh my God, when I do this shit, it's bad, and we are going to lose the midterms if I don't stop. But they won't do it. They'll never turn on him, and they'll never admit that he was wrong about anything. It's astonishing to me. It doesn't make sense. It never did. It never will. But that's the way it is. So that's the reason I hate Trump supporters. I despise them, because they are doing this to our country. Not just Trump with their support, their backing, their votes. He's doing all this shit to us. 16 million people are losing Medicaid. 24 million people are losing their insurance through the ACA, because since they refuse to extend the ACA subsidies, people's premiums are going to go up so high that they're not going to be able to afford it, and they're just going to have to give up their insurance. All this horrible stuff is happening. The horrible stuff that happened under Doge, the good programs that were cut, just so he could save money to put it towards tax cuts for the richest people like Elon himself. And in reality, Doge didn't save us anything. They found about $2 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse, as they call it. Meanwhile, Elon said he was going to find, I think, $100 billion, something like that. And it wound up costing us like 50-something billion dollars, just the operational costs for Doge. So it cost Americans money. And these people like to talk about the debt. They bring up Obama, even though Obama ran up less debt in 4 years than Trump did in 8. They like to always talk about the debt and stuff like that, but they don't mind that uh, we've spent so far in Trump's second term $95 million on golf trips. They don't care. It doesn't even matter to them. As long as it's for Trump, it's fine. We're literally in a situation where anything Trump says goes with these people. There's nothing he can say or do that they will not support, even squandering taxpayer money like that. It cost the guy like $20 million, or it cost us taxpayers $20 million for him to go to the Super Bowl. He didn't even stay the whole time. Okay, this is what we're dealing with here, and they have no problem with it. There's no getting through to them either, because when I do my live streams and I prove facts to them, that just are inconvenient to their argument, they just deny it. I could show them 50 sources for the same thing, and they'll say, nope, the sources are bullshit. Now, if you show them the same sources saying something good about Trump, then those sources' word is good as gold. But if it's something negative about Trump, or like I said, if it's inconvenient to their argument and it doesn't fit their narrative, no good. They'll just say the source is bullshit. And it doesn't matter what source you give them. It does not matter. There was something legal. I forget exactly what it was we were talking about. And I was trying to prove something about, I forget if it was Trump's criminal case or what it was. And I read some stuff to them, and I proved my point. I proved myself to be true, really, to them. And they said, what was your source? And I said, the Department of Justice.gov, DOJ.gov. That's my source. And they said, oh, well, that's bullshit. Now, what better source can you have than that on something like, a criminal case? What better source? There is none. So there's no amount of proof you can show them. There's no amount of proof you could show them to make them change their mind. I'll give you another example. Ivanka. Now, this is Trump's daughter, as you know. Very attractive girl, right? It's okay for us to say. Not so much for her dad. Her dad's on tape calling her voluptuous, which means curvy and attractive. Her dad's on tape saying that if she wasn't his daughter, perhaps he'd be dating her. Her dad's on tape saying that she's always been very attractive. His dad's on tape saying that when asked on The View, what do you have in common with your daughter? He said, I was going to say sex, but I can't say that now. You were going to say sex. Why would you ever say that about your daughter, right? It's sickening. There's no justifying that. No justifying that. You know what they said to me in the chat to defend him? Well, Ivanka's his daughter, and men are into women. So that's how he sees his daughter, like the way he would see any other woman. That's disgusting. That's vile. And nobody, no normal man looks at their daughter in a sexual way. No normal man. I have a daughter. Never looked at her that way. Never would. But that's Trump. His own daughter, even her, he has to try to fuck. It's unbelievable. It really is. And Trump supporters are the most disingenuous people in the world, too, because they claim to care about an issue on one side, but on the other side, the same issue doesn't mean shit. They'll continue to lie about Joe Biden sniffing kids, which is not true. Never happened. It was a digitally altered video. But they'll completely ignore when Trump looked at a 10-year-old girl and said, I'll be dating her in 10 years, which by definition, in my opinion, makes you a pedo, because there was numerous little girls there and he picked a specific one, which tells me he was attracted to her. But even that's not enough for them. Even that's not enough for them. They just ignore it and they go back to talking about Biden, which, again, no matter what Biden did, whether you find it wrong or right, creepy or not, it's irrelevant today because he is not the president anymore. He's a guy with cancer. He's at home sick. Donald Trump is the current president. And until his supporters hold his feet to the fire, there's nothing he won't do. And quite honestly, even if they do hold his feet to the fire, there's probably nothing he won't do. But I'll tell you what, He'll slow down because of these midterms. Believe that. If he sees that Republicans are saying, no, 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 we're not putting up with this shit, you see how quick he straightens up. Because that's all they're worried about. Because bottom line is, if the Democrats win the midterms, Donald Trump's presidency is effectively over. That's why they tried to cheat every way they could. They're trying to gerrymander states to get extra House seats and everything else. Because they know what this means if Democrats win, you know? And just the fact that they're willing, this is I'll say the final reason. And I didn't name all of them, but for what I'm going to name on this show, the final and main reason I despise Trump supporters is because, again, there's nothing low enough for them to justify. It could be pedo behavior. It could be talking about wanting to have sex with your own daughter, which is like incest type of talk. It can be starting a riot at the Capitol. It can be pardoning the CEO of Binance simply because the CEO of Binance uh, got Trump a $2 billion investment in his company, World Liberty Financial, even though the CEO pleaded guilty to his crimes and he was laundering money for pedos and terrorists and stuff like that. The drug lord, the former president of Honduras, being pardoned, they're fine with that, no problem. There's nothing he could do low enough for them to finally turn their backs. There's nothing. And that's why they're not like Democrats. They are insane. They are sick and they're brainwashed. I could tell you all day stuff people that I voted for did that I don't agree with. You know what I mean? With no problem. They can't do it no matter what he does, even if they know it's wrong. They'll never say it. And my opinion on that is because they've already lost so much. They're so invested in this guy that God forbid they ever had to admit he was wrong, because then they're admitting that they were wrong for voting for him. That's the way they see it. And a lot of these guys, let's be honest, we've seen the stories. I mean, a lot of MAGA people, they lost spouses, they lost kids, they lost businesses, they lost jobs because of their support for this guy. So now it's like it's past the point of no return. It can't turn back now. So if they actually said, no, fuck that, Donald Trump is going too far, I didn't vote for this, then it's like all that shit they lost was for nothing. And they're not willing to take that chance. The bottom line about Trump supporters is they will lose everything before they'll admit that they were wrong. And that's why I despise them so much. And we all should. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you next time.